Welcome everyone to round 5 of the Biel Grandmaster tournament. We're back again, Anna.
I'm back again. What a lovely day. Once again, it's a bit too hot, isn't it? But we will not complain. Especially, we will not complain since we have had 4 amazing days. Let us know about the standings, Danny, and what do you think about today's pairings?
Yeah, I mean, what's been great is that the chess has been so exciting. I mean, yesterday, maybe 2 games didn't quite catch fire, but Magnus's game against Nico really made up for it, didn't it?
Definitely, especially from move 1 on, in my heart, the French defense. Later on, it backfired a little bit. Magnus Carlsen got red-handed, as you mentioned it in your video. Everyone, you should definitely check out Danny's summary, game of the day. And the other game that we expected to catch fire was Mr. Navarro's game. Actually, no, was it? No, wait, I'm confusing it. I'm confusing. The other 2 games... No, of Swidler. I'm now confusing it with the other day when Navarro had this basically winning position against Shakria, but that was 2 days ago. I'm mixing things up.
Well, I'm completely confused now, but what I wanted to say was that the game between Magnus Carlsen and Nico Georgiadis really made up for those other 2 draws, because there was so much going on in that game. It was fantastically complicated, and at the end, well, Nico hung on for a draw, and, well, I say hung on. I don't think he was ever in any real danger.
And he played very bravely. He went for this queen d6 move with the idea, already foreseeing the idea of sacrificing an exchange and then a pawn. After having lost 3 games, that's quite brave to do, I believe.
Yeah, and it takes real guts psychologically. You know, you need to be very, very strong, of course, to play in that manner. So anyway, it was a great day yesterday. The standings. So here we go. We have, and I've lost them now, of course, but from memory we have, oh, I see them there. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Magnus Carlsen and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov with 3 points out of 4. And Peter Svidler has 2.5. David Navarra 2. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave 1 point, and Nico Georgiadis, we're delighted to say, is off the mark.
Off the mark.
Still only half a point, unfortunately, but you know he showed that he's really battling hard. So, Anna, the pairings today.
Pairings today. I think we should highlight that today is the day when the 2 leaders face each other. Magnus Carlsen versus Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. That is going to be our main focus of the day. But the other 2 games are, of course, interesting as well. We have Svidler Navarra and Vachier Georgiadis.
Yeah, so at the top, Magnus Carlsen against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. So world number 1, obviously, Magnus, against Shakhriyar, who's world number 3. Oh, we can see Shakhriyar there.
Is it his lucky shirt? Or it just looks like the other day's shirt?
Oh, golly, in this weather, I hope he's got several. I hope it's not the same shirt, because it's 34 degrees outside here in Biel. I mean, it's actually glorious weather. And there is a bit of a breeze, because we're quite near the mountains.
Yes, it's lovely. I think it's a very hot weather here in comparison to what I expected from Switzerland, but the players don't seem to mind it, and I believe there's air conditioning in the hall, so they are not suffering. In terms of the opening, what has happened in the game? We will catch up with the moves as soon as we can. In the meantime, let me just mention the statistics, because these 2 have faced each other 16 times already. Magnus Carlsen won 5 of those games. The last victory was from Doha, 2015. And Mamedyarov, he won 1 game 10 years ago at the Baku GP. The most recent game is from Norway Chess, and it ended in draw, but it was an exciting game in the Open Spanish.
Yeah, actually it was a tremendous game, and Magnus went into an endgame of pawn up and certainly had winning chances. We seem to have just a few transmission problems. I haven't actually moves on my board, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll solve that one second. Anyway, we've only had a few moves. But do you know what? I love the way Shaq looks at the board. He's got that kind of always got a 5 o'clock shadow on his face. Do you know?
5 o'clock shadow?
Yeah, that means.
I did not know this expression, but it reminds me of the sculpture, The Thinker by Rodin.
Ah, that. But I was going to. Well, this 5 o'clock shadow basically always looks like he needs a shave. Oh. But I think that's just the way he looks, basically. Some people have that.
I did not know this expression.
Yeah, 5 o'clock shadow. It gets to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it looks like you're growing a beard.
We will catch up with the moves as soon as we can. In the meantime, I believe we should go through our predictions before it's too late.
That's true. Actually, that's good before we see the moves. Now, Anna, I'm afraid, defeated me yesterday. She got 2 right, only got 1. So I'm hoping to bounce back today. Okay, Anna, I'll put you on the spot. Carlson Mamadjarov.
1-0.
You think Magnus is going to win?
Yes.
Wow.
I should go for something brave. He's going to win.
Okay, interesting.
He's playing so fearlessly here. Every game very exciting. I believe that Magnus is very inspired and he's going to go for it.
Well, I think Shakri has also been playing well, so I'm going to say a draw. Because it's different.
Okay.
Okay.
You might be right. That's a safer choice.
Peter Svidler, David Navarra.
Oof, this is difficult.
Especially when you don't see the opening moves.
Yeah, we know that the head-to-head score is in favor of Peter Svidler. They played a match in Prague in 2012, and that was won by Peter Svidler 3-1. But that's 6 years ago. Does it matter that you won a mini-match against your opponent 6 years ago?
Well, I guess it's such a long time ago. Who knows? As you say, 4-1 in Peter's favour. But he does have the white pieces today. Anna, you're stalling. I can tell you're stalling. Give me your prediction.
Draw.
Draw.
I was considering 1-0 again. What about you?
I'm going to say 1-0.
Okay.
I've got faith in Peter.
Me too, me too. We discussed this yesterday. We will not mention the rest of the topic.
Oh, yes. I just recall I did a table conversation. That was okay. Moving rapidly on. Moving on. We have Maxim Vachilikov against Nico Georgiadis.
1-0. I'm sorry for Nico, but I think it's 1-0.
Yeah, I'm afraid to go with that as well. And they have played just one game previously, which was in 2015, if I...
2013.
2013, I beg your pardon, yeah.
But yeah, long ago.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, there is a gulf in class between the two players, although we saw Nico yesterday play extremely well. Oh, I can see that we've got a few moves on the board. Ah, yes, we have the moves now. Fantastic. Our machine has stuttered into life, which is great. So let's kick off with Magnus against Shakria. E4 from Magnus. Well, it's exactly the same as this game from Norway Chess.
No. Did they repeat the open Spanish as well?
Not today. So in this position, instead of castles and then knight takes e4, that would be the open Spanish that they've played previously this year. Magnus has just shut it down straight away with d3. Magnus loves these structures, doesn't he?
He does. I think it became popular because of Magnus. A couple of years ago, when he started to go for the d3 setup in the Rui Lopez, that's when everyone else started picking it up. I feel like it was thanks to Magnus that it's fashionable.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Yeah, that hadn't really occurred to me that he was sort of the trailblazer in that. Of course, this structure and this idea of playing a modest chain like this, well, I mean, many players have done it. I mean, Kasparov played it, for example, in the World Championship match against Nigel Shorten in 1993 in London. But yeah, you're right, it's only really caught fire in the last 10 years. And before then, Steinitz in the 19th century.
Just a few years before.
A few years before. Okay, moving on. B5. Bishop c5. I mean, this is the most aggressive placement of the bishop. I mean, one can play more modestly here with 7, of course.
Shakhriyar is not that type of solid player.
This is interesting because Magnus loves playing his bishop up to g5 in the Spanish. He does it in so many positions, not just in the Spanish, but in the bishop b5 check Sicilian, he's with a kind of similar pawn structure. He also plays this line. It's this idea with pinning the knight here, and it's quite a provocative idea actually, because it's tempting black into pushing the g pawn, but that of course is structurally quite weakening. I mean, do you ever find yourself on either side of this position?
With both colors often.
Oh, with both colors?
Actually, with black less often, but yes, I'm familiar with this, with both colors. And about g5, I always have these mixed feelings. Sometimes it's white, I would be like, oh, but what if my opponent goes for it, and then if he can castle queenside? But well, not in this structure. With the pawn on b5, it's unlikely that black will actually castle queenside.
I've always enjoyed playing the white side of the Spanish. So I really like the way Magnus plays the Spanish, and yeah, I've also this idea with g5 comes into many variations. Of course, the more prudent way of playing the position is simply to bring the knight into the game and bring the knight round first, sometimes to e3 as well, and only later commit the bishop. But yeah, Magnus has. If not in exactly this position, he's done it several times before. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if Magnus has had this exact position before. I don't know.
I'm going to check it.
Have you got the database to hand? Let's have a little look. Shahriar has castled there.
As against Shahriar, we mentioned that they played this year the Rue Lopez, but it was the open Spanish, not the move 5d3. In other encounters between the two, sometimes it was 1d4. For instance, 2016, Vak Anze, another 1d4 at the Gashimov Memorial. So different approaches, and among the games of Magnus Carlsen in total, I'm going to check all his games as white and see how many times he has played this idea of bishop g5 with the d3 setup. If you give me a second, I will also make a search on that.
Okay. Go ahead. I just have a funny feeling that Magnus has played this exact position before. I mean, certainly the idea, but even this exact position. Should we do a quick tour of the boards?
Definitely. Let's see the opening in the other boards as well, on the other boards.
So we have Peter Svidler against David Navarre. Now this is very interesting because this is following some games in a particular variation of the English that were played in Norway chess between Fabiano Caruana and Sergei Karyakin. Anna, you were there. You can tell us all about this. You're busy looking up something else. I'm giving you...
I'm so bad at multitasking. You put me on the spotlight right now.
So this line with bishop b4,
yes.
This is, I mean, it's very trendy. This was played, as I said, in several games between Fabiano Caruana had it against Sergei Karyakin. I think he had it in another game as well. So queen e7. And after b3, d5, and now d4. This is exactly the same as the Karyakin game, actually. Well, a similar line. I've had this position with white, or I think I might have thrown in a3 and a5 first, and then b3, and after d5, d4. I've had this in a few games.
How do you feel at these positions where white has the pair of bishops and black is trying to compensate for it?
I should go back, because I've played this position, the inclusion of a3 and a5. I've had that against Michael Adams, against Larry Christensen, and somebody else, can't remember. Well, I've always felt that white was slightly better, exactly because of the bishops. But as I said, this is kind of a known position, so I'm surprised that David is hesitating here, because I think he would have been able to anticipate this.
He's falling asleep. He's yawning. He gets up very early, he told us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's already tired.
That's right, he's a morning person, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he's probably due for his siesta around about this time. Are you a morning person or an... Yeah, no. No.
Now I need to be because of the construction, but normally I would not. I would not be a morning person.
Okay.
I'm very awake at 2 a.m. I could start working at 2 a.m. And you?
I get up early. I never used to be, but in my chess playing days, yeah. basically I would get up as late as possible, or I would just sleep till midday or something like that, and then play the game in the afternoon. Now I'm up at 6, 7.
Jeez, oh my.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid once you get kids, they just shatter your regime. But normally it gets to about 3 o'clock and it's siesta time. I love a siesta.
So you're like a Spanish person, more Spanish than I am. I don't really take siestas.
No?
No. I need to be very tired if I need a nap. I would not normally sleep during the day.
Sorry, I'll just reframe that. I won't call it a siesta. I'll call it a power nap.
Power nap.
That's more Northern European.
So what's a power nap? Is it 10 minutes, 15, 20?
Depends what I've got going on, but sometimes I kind of set the alarm for 45 minutes. That's quite
45.
That's quite cheeky.
45. Your recipe for an energetic day, powerful day, power play chess.
Power play chess.
Power play chess
power
with
nap.
power nap. 45 minutes. 45 minutes.
That's the one.
I'm gonna write it down. 45.
Yeah, you take a sneaky 45. If I can fit it in between broadcasts.
It can't be 46, and also it shouldn't be 44. It has to be 45.
Well, the thing is, I set my alarm. It takes me kind of 5 minutes to fall asleep.
Okay,
So they
it's
say
about
40 minutes is the optimum.
40 minutes is the optimal.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
that they say.
The things I learn here, Danny.
Otherwise, it takes long to wake up. You're a bit groggy.
Yeah, the waves when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are in a deeper
exactly.
state of sleep.
They say for airline pilots, if they're got a tight schedule, they say 40 minutes is the thing. See, I've done my research.
You've done your research.
But it would be.
I have a very good friend who is a pilot, but he didn't tell me about power nap. I'm gonna tell him. He's keeping secrets.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Moves in this one. So, yeah, what's going on here? We talk about the position, of course. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes. And now c5. And now queen f4. This has been played before. And basically white tries to get its bishops working in the position. And has a solid kingside pawn front as well. But I also wonder about knight e4 as well. This hasn't really been tested that much. There's quite a lot of, although this is quite an odd variation. I mean, golly, I was playing this in the early 90s, and well, others were too. But there's a lot that can be explored here, actually. Okay, well, we'll leave David to ponder things. And we'll move on to Maxime Vachier-Lagrave against Nico Georgiadis. And we have an extremely theoretical variation. And again, it's in English.
Another English. Today is our English day. How do you feel about that, Danny?
I feel proud.
I expected that word. Honored or proud, I thought.
Very proud. Of course, the English named after Howard Staunton.
Howard Staunton, we're expecting some more tweets. I think he actually tweeted maybe an hour ago. I should read out all the Howard Staunton tweets. We love the Howard Staunton account on Twitter, and he used the hashtag BielChess. Maybe this is not the day I'm reading that. Do you want to have your take?
This is great. So we follow Howard Staunton on Twitter. And I would really recommend, worth following. Howard Staunton says in his latest tweet, 21 minutes ago, no banquet could impart a racier or more stimulating flavour to the intellectual palate of the chess amateur than Biel chess. Howard.
Thank you for your tweet.
Mr. Staunton.
Mr. Staunton, this is such an honor that you have shared your views with us.
That's very, very kind. Very kind to hear your thoughts on Biel chess. And which Staunton, strongest player in, well, let's say, the world in the mid-19th century. In the 1840s, he went to Paris in, I think it was 1841, and he played against the great champion there, Saint-Amand, and they had a match there at the Café de la Régence in Paris, and Staunton was the winner. This was the grand showdown, and yeah, after that, basically, Staunton was recognized as the strongest player in the world in the 1840s.
This is one of my favorite tweets by him, but I can't show it right now.
Probably
anyway,
not.
let's move back to the game. We just really like the account of Mr. Staunton on Twitter.
And that's why this is called the English opening, after Howard Staunton. And it's a very theoretical variation, E5. So I think Nico better know exactly what he's doing, because Maxime is so researches so well. And castle. So this is a very sharp position where white offers a pawn, but can get a very strong attack. Now let me see, how do we do this? Bishop d3 first or rook e1? I'm not sure. Let's try bishop d3.
I would like to catch up with you and look for the most recent games in this variation.
Okay. Yeah, I must admit, I've seen this variation played by some of the big guys, but I wouldn't pretend to be an expert in this. I've never found myself on either side of this particular opening.
As you mentioned, it's very sharp, so Nico has to remember the exact variations. If he misses just one single detail, reverse.
Yeah, so Anna, listen, hit the database button, because I'm afraid
I'm doing a different search now, but I will catch up after d4, e5. It's taking me some time.
My knowledge has been exhausted already.
So you want to your position already or earlier?
Yeah, this position, this exact position.
Okay. Well, I made a search for Mr. Carlsen. Who might have played this, but he did not.
Okay, the machine is going through the motions now. It's very tense.
Some games, including a battle between two of the leading female players, Harika Dronavalli with the white pieces against Yu Wenyun.
Okay, in this exact position, after castles?
E5. Oh, I just can't see your screen properly. It was E5.
Sorry, it went d4, e5, bishop e2.
Bishop e2 is only one game. The main move is bishop g5.
Well, it might transpose.
Could still transpose, okay.
Let's have a look. Well, but if you play bishop e2,
e takes.
E takes, bishop g5. After e takes d4, bishop g5.
The thing is, this was c takes d4, bishop b4, check, bishop
Ah,
b2.
no, that's...
And in the other line, could it be e5, bishop g5, queen g6? No, I don't think I have any recent games for this position.
Okay. Is this a fresh position? That's interesting. So Maxime playing extremely quickly. So Nico, yeah, no wonder he's having a good think here. Well, he's played an extraordinary move, or at least... Oh, no.
Has he?
No, sorry, I thought he played something completely different. Bishop e7, yeah, that looks normal. So I think that's prudent, instead of taking here, which would give white a strong attack after this on rook e1. Instead, he's just played bishop e7. But in this position, if white just... I mean, maybe there are alternatives. We could still play bishop d3 and rook e1. But if nothing else, it's possible to do this and recapture. Ah. I was going to say that if black castles here, then it seems to me that white is a bit better. But in this position, I wonder if bishop h3 is a move.
So my normal response would be knight to h4.
Queen g5.
Now that the knight is hanging.
I'm pretty happy with that with black.
I know.
Yeah. So, okay, we better go back. let's see what the big idea is. So bishop takes, knight takes. Oh, okay, this time I won't take. I'll play bishop d3 instead.
You simply want to chase my queen away from the g file. So if I play queen h5.
Now I was wondering, well, I could go back to taking on e7. I'll do that. I'll take on e7. So presumably knight takes, yeah?
Yes.
Now could I just play rook e1? Do I have a good follow-up?
Yes, I don't like much this pin on the e file. But at the moment I have more soldiers than you.
Take on, okay, well let's be really brave and take on c3. Now, can I draw something up here? Thing is, the bishop is going to block any moment.
I don't have a dark squared bishop, which would love to be on a3 or g5.
Tricky. Okay, what if instead of rook e1, if I just recapture?
So in the game, it is Maxim Vachilagraf's turn to make a move with the bishop e7.
Yep.
And then he's suggesting bishop d3, just to see what we are doing. Without bishop d3, we like the position for black after the capture on e7, since black can play bishop h3 later. Bishop takes e7, knight takes e7. We thought that was all right for black. But after bishop d3, the queen is forced to go to h5.
Well,
Another move would be queen to d6 or bishop f5.
I was going to say bishop f5. I think the only thing is... Feels funny because in that case, black can't block the e file with the bishop on e6. So that might well be a strong move, preventing the king from castling. So yeah, I mean, I always hate when I hear the move is forced.
Yeah.
However, bishop f5 does look a bit funny to me.
Also, I thought this is one way that I would like white's position, but I think after bishop f5 there are other moves that maybe, like at least we could consider.
Knight h4, knight h4.
Yeah, I was looking at that move, but maybe it's not that strong.
Yeah, then just castles,
can
I
castle.
guess. Yeah, okay. Well, as a minimum, taking and taking and rook e1 seems okay. So anyway, let's concentrate on queen h5.
That's the most natural, not forced, but natural.
Yeah, I think so. Why not? I mean, the queen is stationed there, isn't it?
Bishop g4 would be the next move.
Okay, here. Now, rook e1 straight away, or let's take this. I think I want to take this. And if bishop g4, then I'm going to be very brave. I don't know if it's brave. I'll play rook e1. And the question is, well, here, am I brave and do I play this and hope that my attack, the fact that I've pinned here, is good enough, or am I worried about my king being a bit exposed?
That is a good question. If black has time to play something like f6, king f7, then certainly I would pick black. But it looks a bit slow, just one tempo short. Queen e2 is next move, so I don't have time for f6, king f7.
Yeah, I think it looks good for white, doesn't it?
Well, wait a second, it's my turn to move as black?
Black's move, yeah.
Black's moves. So I actually just cast.
Oh no, I forgot! Oh, and a trickster.
Yeah!
Okay. That might be very important, actually.
Yeah, it could be.
I think it's important. Otherwise,
I thought it was white's move,
yeah,
but no.
yeah. No, it's very important. So, in that case, I'd have to play this, but then I don't think black will be in any way worried at all. Now the king is fine, actually, on d7, and Mr. Knight can hop in here.
Whoa, that's a lovely square.
So black is absolutely fine. Okay, but bishop d3 has been played. by the way. That's the position on the board. So queen h5, we need to look at this carefully.
So the variation we have just looked at was...
Yep, bishop takes.
Knight takes, rook e1, and... No, wait a second. C takes d4, bishop g4. That's the one we looked at. Right?
Yeah. I was hesitating about rook e1 because I just thought after this, I'm not quite sure what white has to counter bishop e6. But the whole move that white has here, so it could be something. Rook e5? Should we try? Let me try rook e5. And follow up with queen e2 and maybe a knight somewhere. Where does the queen go?
Good question. I don't have any squares.
Queen h6.
That seems to be the most natural.
Now, I check and queen b4. Okay, let me try something just very obvious. So bishop e6, or I think bishop d6 has to come at some moment, or queen f6, queen here. Seems to shut out the pieces, doesn't it? Well, I mean, if the worst comes to the worst...
You just want to give the pawn on e6.
Something like this here. And now queen d2.
I like it. With the hanging bishop on d3, it seems to be working for black.
Well, to be honest, I think there are many ways out of this. I don't believe this for white. So here, c takes d4 instead. And then this is the line we had, bishop g4.
Bishop g4.
Now, can I be a bit canny here?
In terms of the game, this is the variation the Frenchman has gone for. So he chose to play this as white, but it seems that he has used more time. Maybe he did not expect this exact variation from Nico. What does it tell us that he has used more time, even though he chose this opening?
I think the
times
might be the other way around. Yeah, I think Nico has spent more time, actually. I'm guessing.
Oh. If we can just get a confirmation on that.
Yeah. So bishop e4 here, or we could give a check. Maybe queen a4 check.
By the way, I love this camera angle. Once again, we see the fully packed playing. There are so many parallel activities. This is a festival. We only focus on the games of the Grandmaster tournament, but there are many, many other competitions, including the Masters tournament, the Amateurs tournament, a Physicians Championship. We had a Fisher Random tournament. Mr. Carlson, Henrik Carlson is playing too. We always like to mention.
And I like the red carpet. I like the basically this year in the logo. They basically decided that red is the color, and I think it's, you know, it signifies, well, it's a strong color, and of course red and white, the Swiss flag, it seems to fit perfectly, and I hope that well, they had it last year as well, so I hope Biel is sticking with it. Sometimes they change colors in the logo, but hopefully they're sticking with it, because I think it's striking and it fits Switzerland as the country, and also the Biel coat of arms is also red and white.
I like it. Then it can be seen on our layout as well. It's all red and white.
Yep.
It's a nice color, one of my favorite colors.
Okay, queen a4 check. I'm still harrying on in this variation somehow. This could be tricky. So if c6, then rook e1. This might be a bit double-edged. Well, it's very double-edged.
What's going on here after bishop f3? Do you want to include something like a queen move attacking on e7? Or it wasn't your idea? No, but then I have queen g5. So if I want to be tricky and play queen b4 or queen a3, black can play g5, defending d7 knight and threatening mate team 1. So I can't capture bishop anymore.
Very true. Actually, I was just looking at this move.
Whoa! That's quite straightforward.
Yeah, it's rubbish. but in a few variations it works. My idea was this, and I was thinking, well, hang on, where does the king go? Because if the king goes back, then the rook joins in, and maybe I can take here. And if king here, I was thinking, yeah, this looks like fun. Am I in there? Could be. And then I noticed in this position, c5, I think is a bit of a party killer.
Beautiful. Defends the b7 pawn. That's the key. This f3 bishop that's half dead, defending the b7 square. Wow. c5.
I'm really disappointed about that. I thought it was a killer idea. Never mind. And I don't think there's anything.
Almost, Danny. You almost made it work. I'm proud of you.
Takes. Well, it's probably bishop c6 is. Yeah, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. It's almost there.
Almost.
So queen h5. We're still looking for a sort of clear way through for white. It's not exactly sure. Take some bishop g4. Of course, black doesn't have to play bishop g4. Bishop g4 allows, a few tricky things. Could just castle, which would be far more sensible.
Yeah. What do you think about looking at the other two games? If there are any important new moves in the two games that we looked at before, including the main game, the main court, Magnus Carlsen against Shahryar Mamedyarov.
Well, we left it here, and Magnus just played knight d2 and bishop e6, so really nothing...
Nothing's happening just yet.
Nothing very special going on. Standard position. I suppose Magnus has the choice of, what he does with this bishop. Does he preserve it? Does he leave it there? Could just castle. Of course, at some moment, Shahryar has to decide, what do you do about this pin? Because what you need is the bishop back on e7, breaking that pin.
Well, he can't really do that.
Unfortunately not.
So what are the ways of getting out of the pin? G5 we mentioned, but with the king on g8, it might be problematic. There's a game of Magnus against Sergei Karyakin from Vaikanze where Magnus just sacrificed on g5 to maintain the pin. It ended in a draw. It was a very interesting game.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, wasn't it?
Yep. There's certainly this idea that after g5, white might sacrifice depending on the position.
I mean, even here, it's not so silly, actually.
Yeah, it's always interesting to calculate. Now, another question is whether you will actually go for it, but it's there. It's always in the air.
I mean, one possible defense is to actually just put the knight back on to d8 and to d7, and rook h8 as well. So it's probably insufficient here. I think we need them coming around very quickly, but with the rook on f1, I guess it's not right. But we can just drop. And it is possible to play like this for black.
Yeah. So this is one way of dealing with the pin. Let's try to list a few more options on how to get rid of this pin. It's so common also in the Italian. So maybe we can give some tips on how to prevent, or if you could not prevent, then how to deal with this pin on the h4 d8 diagonal.
Well, another one is to exchange here and then queen up to e6. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite ones because you don't have to push the d-pawn in this sense, and you trade the light red bishop so that you can place your queen on e6.
But that can also be slightly problematic, as one has to cope with the push.
d4, d5 sometimes.
And the other way to cope with the pressure here is to play knight back to b8 to put it on d7 to guard this. But I mean, again, in this position, it's not right because d4 can happen. Magnus has castled. That's on the board. So let's see. Shahryar, I think Shahryar might drop the bishop on c5 actually, because just to avoid any potential push, I think he might just duck back to b6 and then perhaps think about queen e7 or possibly g5 a bit later. But Yeah, it seems to me that Queen E7 is kind of the normal move here. I quite like Bishop B6.
The good thing about Black's position is that White is not threatening to actually put pressure on the F6 knight just yet. So the pin is only problematic when you can put more pressure on this piece. For instance, if you can land your queen on F3, or if you could attack the F6 knight with a pawn, which is obviously not the case in these positions.
Well, which puts an idea in my mind, namely rook E1, and let's just carry on and spin the knight round. And then from E3, or possibly G3, then there's more potential to, well, obviously hop into the outposts here. So rook E1 looks normal.
Yes.
Queen E7. And we're getting that moment where Black has to make a big decision.
Whether it's G5 or capture on B3 and Queen E6. So before the knight lands on D5, Black will have to deal with this pin.
Shach is knuckling down. He's working hard.
Your favorite posture of Shach. I can do that.
He's yeah.
No, I'm not doing it as well as he does.
Do you think he has back problems? I'm just looking at the...
You would be worried if you were his position, right?
I'm looking at the curvature of the spine.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking he might need some physio help.
Yeah, we are worried about the well-being of Shach. We can ask him after the game if he has back problems.
Well, a little bit personal.
Doesn't just mention it on air to a few thousand people, whether we believe that he's got back problems. It's fair enough if we ask him. Now, of course, we are just worried that this posture might not be the healthiest.
Tricky. It's tricky for chess players.
Now I'm concerned about my own
I know,
posture.
exactly. It makes me want to kind of
stretch a little.
Push my shoulders back when I see that. Yeah, exactly. I'm afraid, again, an occupational hazard of chess players. Shakhriyar, number 3 in the world, he's had an extraordinary time over the last, 18 months, really, breaking through the 2800 barrier. And I think, there's been so much development in Azerbaijan for their chess team. They're a real force to be reckoned with now. They have Timur Radyabov, they have Mamedov as well. They're also Arkady Neidich.
Yes, new player on the Azeri team, formerly playing for Germany. Mr. Neidich has switched to Azerbaijan, so they have a very strong team. They won the European Team Championship a few years ago. And in that particular European Championship, I remember the strategy of the Azeri team, at least what appeared to us. I was there as a player for Hungary, and of course I was discussing the team of Azerbaijan with my teammates from the men's team of Hungary. And they thought that the strategy of Azerbaijan was that Shakhriyar would play as many white games as possible. So they shuffled him around. It's 5 players on the team, but only 4 are playing every round. So what they did, according to my teammates, was that I think he was listed perhaps as number 3, so that he would be either on board 3 or board 2 if you pick someone out from board 1 or board 2. So you give a free day to your board 2, the days it was board 2 white, and if it was board 3 white, then he would just stay where he is. It's not official, of course, it was just our theory, but he is just such a strong player with the white pieces that they clearly wanted to give him as many white games as possible.
Presumably Radyabov was on board 1, probably.
And I think it was when Gashimov still played.
Ah, yes, of course. Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I can't remember which edition exactly, but I know that once it clearly looked like it was about Shakhriyar having as many white games as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, though, because Radyabov is more solid, so they would put him on board 1 as the blocker.
Yeah. Maybe it was board 2 and board 1, but he had the option of sitting on one board or the other.
Yeah.
Board 2 or board 1 could have been.
Radyabov was the blocker, and Mamedov playing, as you say, he's such a dangerous attacking player. And I mean, if you have a database or a collection of his games, do check out Shakhriyar's games, because has extraordinary sacrificial attacks. I remember this going way back in his career from the first time that he won the World Junior. In fact, he won the World Junior on 2 occasions. I don't know why he entered for a second time after winning it. But anyway, he's won twice, going way back. And those games had such spirit to them, not afraid to make long-term positional sacrifices, sacrificing exchange, for example. And yeah, given a sniff of a chance, he could still be in there. So yeah, he can be a very exciting player, but with the black pieces, it's more difficult to play that kind of thing.
Of course. And what he mentioned as perhaps a recipe for his success, breaking 2800 and maintaining this level, he said that, well, he learned to be solid as well, because he was more about, I win or lose, all in. That used to be his style. He's just such an aggressive, great attacking player, but that also meant a lot of risk. Yeah. And nowadays, he's more about, okay, I take risk when I need to. I take a draw when I need to.
Yeah, he's reined himself in a little bit. And, of course, he came so close to qualifying as the World Championship challenger. And the candidates, he came second in the candidates to Caruana, and he played an excellent tournament, actually. Even in the last round, if you remember, he was playing against big Vlad Kramnik, yes. But didn't quite get it.
And he's so disappointed, of course. As he mentioned, second place in the candidates is just as bad as last. That's what he said.
Yeah, no, a dangerous man. And he kind of enjoys his chess as well, doesn't he? I think we've both seen him on a couple of occasions in blitz sessions. In fact, you were his partner. You were telling me earlier. Come on, tell us this story. This is great.
You want the story?
I want a story.
Oh, we are not on camera. I feel like it cannot be. It cannot be the moment for such a story.
Okay, later on.
Because I have all the hand gestures and everything. Oh, we are back when I come. Does it mean that I need to tell you the story?
Listen, save it for later. Let's look at some chess. Let's go to Peter.
Oh, look at that tweet from Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for once again this amazing art. What is my face? What am I doing? Look at your cheese. That's a huge portion of cheese there for you, Danny.
Cheese, chocolate, and Capablanca.
Well, nice combination, right?
A beautiful combination.
I love Capablanca, but I wonder what was it that we said that it made it to be Capablanca.
I have no idea, but I'm very comfortable with that. I'm a Kappa fan.
Me too. Nice company. Thank you so much for this amazing art. Was this my actual? Is it how I look like when I commentate?
Quite possibly. Anyway, we won't go there. Listen, let's go back to Peter Svidler against David Navarra, and
I'm going to retweet this. I like it.
It did go in exactly as I mentioned earlier. But as I said, this has been played before. And white is just a little bit better here with the bishops. But it is a fairly simplified position. I suppose that's the only thing. So that, if it manages to neutralize the position, it could drift to a draw. But yeah, I'm intrigued by this because, as I said, I've played in a very, very similar way with white a long time ago. But I always felt that white had slightly better chances here. It was a kind of very safe and stable way for white to play. So, okay, not many developments there at all. Of course, black can castle, bishop e6, these are all possible.
And what we can once again point out is that David is the player that comes every day dressed super smart, the most elegant of all the participants, wearing a tie. Yesterday's tie was a chess tie, checkered, black and white. Today I think it's simply a black tie, but he's just very elegant every day.
Let's move to Maxime Vachier-Lagrave against Nick Georgiadis. And after b3, he didn't play queen h5, which we thought was acceptable. But instead, he's played queen d6, so keeping the queen in the middle. And the position has stabilized, basically. So white just has a nice pawn center here. Anna, what do you think? I mean, obviously, white is a little bit better, but how serious an advantage do you think?
I think think it's just a tiny bit of an advantage. What is more of an advantage is the situation that Nico has only scored half a point. All that half point was from yesterday against the world champion, so that's a big success for Nico. The Frenchman won in B5-time tournament. This year he's not so well. It's not his best event, but clearly he's a stronger player overall. In one game, I think can happen. Now, how much he could get in this position, I doubt that the position is much.
Got one more move, rook e1. It reminds me actually of positions that can arise out of the Petrov.
Yes.
Yes. You often get this structure.
I was thinking which other opening it reminds me of, and yes, you're right, completely.
But this is a little bit more simplified with a couple of minor pieces traded off, and it doesn't feel as though black should have difficulties here with... I think the queen is well situated because this... Well, of course, if c5 wins a piece, but... so better move the knight. I mean, I guess knight g6. Now, is there a way that white can, well, Having said I'm not worried about the pawn push, I'm tempted to push the pawn. Or bishop e4 first, one of these moves. Or rook b1. Too many tempting moves.
I guess if you go for a setup with the bishop on e4, if I need to, I can play c6 and then develop my bishop.
True.
But you have some pressure, because even with the pawn, for instance, bishop e4, c6, you might place your rook on the semi-open b file and make my life a little bit more difficult in order to develop this c8 bishop. Some pressure.
And, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit annoying, isn't it? We can keep this one in reserve.
Yeah, it could become very concrete after bishop e6. But it just feels like white has just enough pressure, and Biel could get an interesting position. So I think of his opening choice, he did go for an interesting variation. It's not a theoretical draw. All he needs a playable position where he's somewhat better.
Yeah. Certainly white has a few possibilities here. Maybe even d5, create a passed pawn, because that would force the bishop back. Because b7 is on. Feels like one of those positions where if black gets it absolutely right, then he should be able to equalize. But maybe he just has to tread a narrow path over the next few moves.
Quite possibly. He has to be very precise. And this could be the critical moment. This and the next couple of moves, as you mentioned. I'm going to write this down, actually. It is move 15, around move 15.
Let me see. So rook e1 being played. I mean, I've been playing knight g6, but there are alternatives. But not bishop g4. That would be inaccurate, because then we could take a check. Take on g4. So not that one. And how about if I try to chop more pieces? Is that legal? Can I do that? How is this? Takes. Any tricks?
Trickery. That's my kind of thing.
Seems okay for black, doesn't it?
Yes,
I think.
I don't seem to refute it.
So in that case, why not bishop f5? Because, you know, I want...
Logical.
This bishop is the tricky piece because it's looking at h7. And also, I don't want to get stuck with that rook b1 move, which was very annoying. So bishop f5. is my latest offering.
I think that's a good choice for black. I believe that even after the trade of bishops, white should be slightly better. So it's certainly a position that the Frenchman will play for a win. I was going to tell you that I would like to ask about this knight on f5. Are you going to defend it? Are you going to move away?
I think I'm going to defend it. Yeah, and I was trying to get tricky with queen b1.
Double attack.
Looking at the two, but there is a good move, namely knight takes d4. I mean, black is basically one move away from, I think, being completely okay here. You know, if it were black's move and we played rook d8,
yeah,
everything would be fine. But white has just a little bit of initiative.
I think we should come back to this a bit later and see what's going on the main court. Any new moves?
Center court. That's not the position.
Not yet the position.
That is the position. Magnus thought a long time over castling. 23 minutes over that one. And it looks like Shahriar is responding in kind by investing here as well.
A tweet about this game from Jonathan. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Mr. Jonathan Thisel, the captain of the Norwegian Olympic team, has tweeted, "Big day at the top of Biel chess. Probably good for Mags to have been tagged yesterday. Needs to stay grounded before the match. Regular reminders that there's work to do might be annoying, but likely beneficial." Couldn't agree more with him.
Wise words.
Going to like and retweet. Really, I think he knows, of course, very well Magnus. He has been the captain of the Norwegian team for the last couple of years. And yeah, the World Championship match is the most important event of Magnus this year. If he just goes 8-0 here for the first 8 rounds, that perhaps wouldn't have helped much his preparation for the match. Stay grounded.
Absolutely, and you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but the opening that he played yesterday was basically just pushing it too far. And I wonder, did Magnus realize that this variation with bishop a5 is actually something of a Swiss speciality? So Werner Hug, who was world junior champion back in the day and on the Swiss team for many, many years, he specialized in playing bishop a5. And, you know, he had many pupils, and I suspect that most of the top players in Switzerland, even if they haven't played this bishop a5 variation themselves, will actually be very familiar with the ideas associated with it. So I don't know. I think basically Magnus, I think, might have just kind of picked the wrong opening. I think he basically decided on the morning of the game.
Probably. He might not have realized. And I wanted to quote another Norwegian, our Norwegian reporter, Tarjei Svendsen, about yesterday's game of Magnus. Since yesterday's draw against Nico, that was Magnus Carlsen's first draw against a player under 2600, the rating 2600, in the last 2 years. So before that, it was the Baku Chess Olympiad, where Magnus Carlsen drew with Sadora, I believe, master from the Philippines, am I correct?
Can't remember.
But yeah, under 2600, that was the last time Magnus Carlsen drew with someone below the rating of 2600. And if we look at other results, the only person to have beaten Magnus Carlsen with that was Yannick Pelletier, the main organizer of the Biel Chess Festival, the Grandmaster tournament, and it was 2010. The only person to beat him since 2010.
Yes, since 2010. It was
since 2010. It was a few years later, I think.
It was in the European Team Championship in Reykjavik.
You're right.
2015.
2015.
Yeah, that's Yannick, who's Who's floating around? Yeah, he's over there.
Oh, and we should congratulate him.
Well,
and maybe also.
I did it at the time. I did it 3 years ago.
I know I also did it, but we can also congratulate him when he joins us. He might join us later.
That'd be nice because, in fact, Yannick said at the time that actually Magnus was very gracious in defeat, and came along later to the hotel where they were at, where the Swiss team were at, and bought some champagne.
Really?
Yeah.
For Yannick?
And
for beating him?
Yeah, he and they shared a drink together.
Wow, I did not know this story.
Yeah.
That's a very nice gesture from
as
the
I
world
recall
champion.
it. So, well, Yannick can confirm that anyway. Yeah, he's just shaking his head, and he's a very busy man. We'll talk later, Yannick.
We'll tell him when he joins us.
We've got another move, and after castles, in Shahriar did play bishop b6. And, well, as I said earlier, it seems to me just a prudent move, just to withdraw the bishop, because in some positions, d4 and d5 is a possibility. So, looks like a solid move. And now I was thinking rook e1, all very standard Spanish stuff, with the idea of just spinning the knight round towards those lovely outposts. Possibly g3, but that looks normal to me.
Definitely. Still a very standard position. I think we should move on to the next game.
Peter Svidler against David Navarra, and we have a couple more moves, castles and bishop b2. So nothing very special, but now black has to deal with a threat. How are you dealing with it, Anna?
Oh no, threats. I don't like to have double pawns. I would certainly be scared about bishop takes f6. But I also can't move the knight away because the d5 pawn needs section. So what's the solution?
Well, it seems to me that
d4?
Well, d4 is that would be quite unclear. So that's the kind of the random one, because after, well, let me see if I this. How's this?
Oh wow!
Takes on e3.
I looked for a second, and you already managed to have opposite side castling on the board as sharp as possible.
This starts to get a bit tasty. I mean, maybe this is just rubbish for white. I don't know. I'm looking at something. Just give and go, as they say in
all
football.
All in. Is this Peter Svidler's style? Actually, with those two bishops, why not?
Well,
why not?
I think this would be Peter's style.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Now I'm looking at it, and I like it for white.
And put the rook in the middle. So black would play here, and I've always got the option to take. Well, I don't want to do that
right now because it would allow the trade of queens. But yeah, white has only sacrificed the pawn, and he's got a pair of bishops plus the initiative on the king side with opposite side castling. That's very important, that you are faster than your opponent.
Isn't this a dream?
It is a dream position. I would be so scared here, black. I don't think this is what black should do. Maybe d4 is actually not a good idea.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I was playing in a rather obliging way, but so after this here, any alternatives? It does. I think it looks quite dangerous, actually.
It looks very dangerous.
Because I'm threatening, if black doesn't take pawn, I'm just threatening to play the rook over. Any tricks here? Queen exchange, knight g4. How's knight g4? Is that annoying? I want to play queen e3 and be a complete wet blanket.
Before you get mated.
Before I get, well, why not?
Makes sense. Of course, you should get rid of the queens if king is under attack.
So, for example, queen g3, queen e3. Still a bit of compensation, but I would be a bit happier with if I were black here. It's probably okay, isn't it? All right, so knight g4, that might be a really, really annoying move. Do I have to capture the pawn, or can I play something exciting instead? Knight g4, is it that good? Now I'm annoyed because I don't want to trade the queens.
How forcing was this whole version?
Well, d4 is really interesting. I mean, castle's queenside was the move off the top of my head.
No, I like it. Let's try again. Castle
Well,
queenside.
yeah, but that variation is not as clear, is it? I just
isn't.
wonder what the alternatives are. Ah, here's another alternative. I could sacrifice it another way after this. Castle's kingside.
All right.
And then I get the rook to the f file.
You use the f file. I understand the idea now. It looks almost as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than the position.
How's rook d8? Okay, let's take here. Rook d8. I don't know. Certainly d4. It forces a big response from white because obviously black is just threatening to isolate this pawn. So I think white. I mean, if white wants to get something here, I think you've got to ditch something. Really.
Certainly. I think this is a critical moment after bishop b2.
But instead of d4, there's also just bishop e6. Because I don't think I'm worried about this. I mean, white could say, yes, I've got the slightly better structure, but it's not, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, without knights, it's not easy to exploit a structural weakness. And also there's no dark squared bishop either, so there's just no way of attacking this f6 pawn.
Yeah. Okay, so what if I continue